Now, from CBS News Miami, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Welcome to Facing South Florida. I'm Jim DeFede. Democrats across the country are feeling good after last week's elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City. But it went well beyond those three elections. Democrats also won races in Alabama, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. But will that carry through to Florida next year? Well, let's not go crazy. But for Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings, Tuesday's election results certainly provided a nice backdrop to his announcement that he's running for governor. He will be running against David Jolly for the Democratic nomination. Now, before his formal announcement, I spoke to Demings about why he was running.
Well, first off, I think that most people who you talk to, they see a toxic environment between the different political parties. So I'm looking to really work across with any political party to take care of the needs of Floridians. I have a history of doing that. Obviously, in the role that I currently serve as mayor, it's a nonpartisan role. I don't care whether people are Democrats or Republicans. All I care about is taking care of them. So I'm looking to bridge the gap that currently exists between local governments and the state because of preemptions and this heavy-handed control that we're seeing now. I want to bring back some balance in how we operate as a state between local governments and the state of Florida. Secondly, I think that the mean-spirited politics that we see today is nothing more than dividing us across political lines. And so people want to see government get back to some balance where there's some normalcy in what they see. So I'm that person. I'm the person that is going to hopefully unify Floridians around this notion that you can be of different parties, you can disagree, but you can be agreeable to take care of the people's needs within this state. So I'm running on my public safety credentials. There will not be a candidate in this race who will bring to the table the type of crisis management experience that I bring. Obviously, I spent about 37 years or so in law enforcement, and I've had the kitchen sink thrown at me in terms of managing crisis, from dealing with weather phenomena to a global pandemic, to terror attacks and various other things that happened during my career. I bring that kind of experience that no other candidate is going to bring to the table.
Why do you believe you are better suited to be governor or to actually even have an attempt at winning than David Jolly, who makes the argument that he is the moderate, he is the centrist, he can work across the aisle because he has been a Republican, then moved to be an independent and is now running as a Democrat. He seems to be trying to run in that center lane. Why do you think you're better suited?
Well, I think that the difference between David Jolly and I is the experience at managing local government and having the relationships across the state with other local elected officials. The closest that people are to their government happens at the local level. He won't have that kind of experience, the broad-based experience that I have at this point. I've leaned into dealing with issues with housing affordability in my community. In terms of the issues with David Jolly, God bless him. Anybody who wants to run for political office, they have a right to do it. I'm simply saying that to bring about the change that the majority of the people that they want to see today, what that takes is leadership. Someone who has the experience, the knowledge to be able to execute and implement the broad plans that people want to see for change. I just tell you that our skill set is different. I've been a sheriff, I've been a police chief, I've been a public safety director, I've been an interim jail director, I've done all those things. I've been a mayor now. And so those are skill sets that are very unique. You're not going to find that type of skill set in any of these other candidates that are going to come to the table to run. What I will also tell you is that in terms of where do we go from here, I want people to believe for a change that we can do it. And I humbly say this, I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I'm not running to be the Democratic governor of Florida. I'm running to be the governor of Florida. There's no path to victory if we don't get people who are in unaffiliated uh, situations in terms of registration. There are no party affiliates or independents or others. We need to get them to the table and believe that I'm the right person at the right time. I believe that I'm probably better suited to be able to convince people. They know who I am. I'm my authentic self. I don't have the baggage of having been a Republican for a lifetime and then newly as a Democrat.
One of the issues you talked about earlier was the heavy handed nature that Tallahassee has brought to bear, and that was certainly evident recently with the forcing of you guys to sign, or Orange County to sign the 287G agreement to allow, immigration, basically to step up immigration efforts, federalize almost statewide some of these officers, whether it's in your jails or it's your actual deputies. You had a choice to make. You could either have signed the agreement and voted to do it, or you could have defied the governor and the attorney general. Why didn't you defy him?
Obviously, the central issue here had nothing to do with the agreement. The agreement that I signed was an agreement with the federal government through an intergovernmental agreement. The state of Florida was inserting themselves in the middle of a discussion that was a two-party agreement between others. And the state of Florida and the governor was essentially saying that if we fail to sign the agreement because of a law that the state passed, uh, it would subject us to the potential for removal from office. I was not going to allow us to be removed from office. Also,
Wait a second.
some
Let me just hold you there. I just want to jump in on
let
that
me be
because
let me be clear here, okay? Because you asked me the question. Let me be clear here. There was a real threat that the governor potentially, in their interpretation, that we were not cooperating would remove us from office. But signing the agreement through the art of negotiation behind the scenes, what the public doesn't realize is that I knew that by signing the agreement was not going to require us to transport any detainees, federal detainees, to detention facilities. I knew by signing that because we were having discussions with the federal government. And so, because of that, signing the agreement was not going to do what many people perceived that it would do. It was inconsequential. And I will tell you to this day, our correctional staff at the Orange County Jail has never transported anyone to a detention facility, and likely they never will.
well, the point that I was going to try to make was that if you had defied the governor, if you had forced him to remove you physically, let him send the state troopers in, let him send FDLE to handcuff you and march you out of County Hall. That would have been a hell of a moment for you. I think you would have,
It would have been a losing moment. Why would I do that? Why would I give the governor the opportunity to insert his minions into the elected roles of my entire board of county commissioners? Why would I do that?
all
Because
right.
those consequences of doing that would have been irreparable. I wasn't going to put the citizens of Orange County at risk of having someone that they did not elect, they don't know, come in and change things. I owed it to my employees to not let that happen, who are afraid and concerned about their jobs. And at the end of the day, while the governor might have been playing checkers, I was playing chess. We continued to stay in our role. We were not removed. And if we had been removed, we've seen what happened when the governor has removed others. They fought for a year or better. Some never even got their jobs back. Others had to run for reelection. But that's a year down the road of chaos and dysfunctionality that would have been invoked on my constituents. I was not going to do that. So signing the agreement has really resulted in no consequences for us. That didn't happen. And so at the end of the day, I had to take my personal opinions about it out and put the people first. I put the people first. And as a result of that, we're still sitting here today. There were no consequences for Orange County government or my elected officials that I served with.
Your wife ran statewide 4 years ago for the United States Senate. What did you learn from watching that race that you think you can apply here? She obviously was not successful in that race, and the atmosphere for Democrats in terms of registrations have gotten worse in Florida. So I'm just sort of curious, what were the lessons, what were the takeaways you got from watching your wife run 4 years ago statewide?
Well, obviously, I was part of that. I was on the ballot myself. I had to run. I had some other initiatives that I was advancing to the ballot, and I saw her work her butt off, uh, crisscrossing the state of Florida, trying to convince the residents of Florida that she was the best candidate for the United States Senate at the time. Of course, she did not win. So there were some logistical things that I learned from that. There were some strategic things that I learned from that, and I would bring all of that to the table.
Can
Obviously,
you give me an example? Can you give me an example?
that would be more like insider information. I'm not going to put that out there how I strategically plan to win. But suffice it to say, I cannot win if I do not convince the people of Florida that I'm the right person at the right time.
When we come back, I will be joined by the newly elected mayor of Hialeah, Bryan Calvo, and later, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten, on her new book, Why Fascists Fear Teachers. Stay with us. Welcome back. We saw local elections across South Florida this week. On Miami Beach, we watched two incredibly flawed and controversial candidates run for mayor, with Steve Miner emerging as the lesser of two evils, edging out Chris and Rosen Gonzalez. In the city of Miami, voters decided they were finished with the old guard of Carollo, Suarez, and Diaz de la Portilla. Instead, the top three vote-getters in the crowded field were reform candidates, with County Commissioner Eileen Higgins getting 36% of the vote. She will now advance to a runoff next month against former city manager Emilio Gonzalez, who received 19%. Ken Russell finished third and is now out of the mayor's race. And we have a little breaking news for you this morning. I will be moderating a live televised debate between Higgins and Gonzalez on Tuesday, November 25th from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on CBS. It should be a good one. Now, in Hialeah, voters there elected Bryan Calvo to be the next mayor in the City of Progress. At 27, Calvo will be the youngest mayor in the city's history. I caught up with him a few days after his big win.
Look, I think the results that we saw, being able to win in a mandate in a very crowded field, shows a mandate to govern for change in Hialeah. That's what my candidacy was based on. You had other commissioners, the interim mayor. They represented continuity from Mayor Steve Bovo's departure. And my candidacy was one of change. And I think the voters spoke loud and clear that they want something different. You see costs going up in Hialeah year after year, as in many cities in Miami-Dade County, but the services in Hialeah have really suffered. And we're focused on that, on improving those services while trying to keep the costs as low as possible.
Why did you want to run for this position? Obviously, you were a city councilman. You were one of the youngest, if not the youngest, to ever serve. What made you want to move up to the seat of mayor?
Look, I'm a Hialeah kid, born and raised. I was a product of the public schools. I went off to Harvard. I got my studies there. I worked at the White House. I did all those things. And then I came back to my community to give back to the city where I grew up. A lot of the people that I went to high school with, they went off and they didn't come back. And Hialeah has sort of that brain drain or whatever you want to call it. But it's been a city where most people, they try to leave after a while. I think that changes now. Hialeah is an amazing place to live, an amazing place to start a family. But they need the leaders that understand the issues, not only from the door-to-door and sort of the common day issues that affect folks, but also have the professional training, right? We talk a lot about how I'm the youngest mayor in Hialeah's history, but I'm also the first attorney that Hialeah has had as mayor. And so I think the combination of the professional acumen and also the, having been born and raised in the city make me uniquely qualified to lead the city over the course of the next 4 years, because right now we're celebrating our 100th year anniversary. I think it's a pivotal moment in our city's history.
You ran as a reformer. You ran as someone who wants to root out corruption. Talk to me a little bit more about that. What is it that you see in your city that you don't like and that you want to change?
Look, over the course of the campaign, there was several stories in the Miami Herald about corruption. You had the interim mayor with several code violation issues, even though she was the chief code enforcement officer as mayor. The perception, at least by the common resident, is the city hall is corrupt. There's backroom dealings. And a lot of this over the course of the campaign was shown to be correct. And so it's coming in with that mentality of cleaning up shop to the best one can. I mean, I don't have the idea that I can come in with a magic wand and root out all evil and all corruption, but we certainly strive to that end. I think, one of the main concrete things that we have to do is Hialeah does not have an independent inspector general position. And so those are one of the changes that I'm proposing that take place, because you need a check and balance. Hialeah is a strong mayor. It's a strong mayor form of government, much more powerful than even the county mayor, because the commissioners in Hialeah, which is called the city council, they have very, very little power. I saw it firsthand. And I think the playing field has to be leveled, because you need more checks on the chief administrator, which is the mayor.
One of the things I'm sort of curious about, you represent sort of a new generation. We see that in politics where a lot of older politicians tend to hold on. We see it in Washington. We see it throughout Florida. What do you think, your election represents just in terms of the next generation, the youth sort of coming into power of its own?
Yeah, look, it's a shift, a generational shift, definitely. One saying that I think it holds true is age is no confirmation of wisdom, but youthfulness is no confirmation of change. I hope my generation does do it differently. I certainly am striving to do it differently in our city. And so I think it's a powerful opportunity that we have. But understanding that, look, the realities of governing, right? Campaigning is easy, right? Governing is a lot harder. But we go in, and I go in with the best intention to try to make this city the best place to live. That's the outlook that I have. And I think it's a powerful moment. In Hialeah, we have some of the oldest voters across Miami-Dade County. The average age, believe it or not, is over 75 in our city. And yet they wanted to elect, quite literally, the youngest mayor in all of Florida. So I think they have confidence in the youth. And, I hope that I can deliver, and I will deliver on that confidence.
Have you already started making some decisions as to what you want to do with your administration? Because you are the strong mayor. So, for instance, the police chief, other administrators, do you expect them to stay, to go? What are your plans with regard to that?
Yeah, look, this is over the next 2 months, a moment to build the government. Swearing in wouldn't be until January. Up until this interview right now, I have still not heard from the interim mayor. I have not heard from the city in any official or unofficial capacity. But I need to start getting information from the city to start making these decisions. We have 19 departments, and I need to interview and vet each one of those directors. I know many of them as a council member, but obviously this is totally different. And I think there will be major changes. I'm not ready to announce that right now, but as coming in, I need a good team that's surrounding me. And I think it's going to be a mix of people that are there now and new people that need to come in.
Up next, the author of Why Fascists Fear Teachers, Randi Weingarten. Stay with us. Welcome back. Randi Weingarten is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, one of the largest labor unions in the country. She has written a new book, Why Fascists Fear Teachers. And I moderated an event for her book late last month at the Coral Gables Congregational Church. During our discussion, she outlined why she believes education is the key to preserving democracy.
The two foundational principles in education that, frankly, I would say the detractors of public education really hate. Number one is critical thinking, and number two is pluralism. The power of knowledge is the power to discern not right from wrong, but fact from fiction. It's the power to be able to problem solve, to critically think, to assess, to be able then to discuss in a way that you can communicate with each other. And that the founders understood was the bulwark against tyranny. Number two is this issue around how we comport ourselves as a community or not. And whether you call it pluralism or whether you try to create, you have another word for it, like the congealing of society. The authoritarian playbook is to create fear, isolation, and apathy. Public education is a way of congealing society, of creating for young people the habits of democracy. And how do we do that? Think about a classroom. Lots of kids come into a classroom. They're diverse. They're different. I know those two are identical words. And what do we do as teachers? We try to create an inclusive society within our classroom where everyone is welcome and safe. And then we try to create equal opportunity. Okay, I've just used 3 of the words that you're never supposed to use anymore in Florida. Diversity, inclusion, and equality or equity. But that is who we are.
I also had a chance to speak to Weingarten before the event about where she believes we are today as a country.
We're in a moment like never before, which is this is an amazing country. And it is the one republic that has endured for 249 years, a republic of the people, by the people, and for the people, and that's being jeopardized every single day. And so part of what I tried to do in this book is a warning about essentially why our system of government, a democracy, is the best system that we could have, because it is what we need to do to actually meet the needs and the aspirations of people in America. And any other system of government, the authoritarian system, a fascist system, is one that is about power, not about people. But I also am really hopeful about America because I watch who Americans are. And frankly, it is the school teachers of America who can help create a sense of how kids can have a future, how they can have the skills and knowledge they need, the habits of democracy, and the knowledge of critical thinking and problem solving.
The perception, though, is that things are so broken that it's impossible to put them back together.
It's not so broken. When you have 7 million people come out on No King's Day, it's not so broken. What's happened is that there is an abuse of power in this country that the people don't like, and you see that. And if we can have free and fair elections, and we can listen to what people are saying and how we meet their aspirations, which are, they want grocery prices to go down. In a state like Florida, we need insurance. We need to have insurance, and we need those prices to go down. People need to be able to have a pathway to a middle class, a pathway to the promise of America. And for me, as a school teacher, it starts with children and their teachers.
Well, that's all the time we have today. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to contact me at jdefede@cbs.com. Oh, I do enjoy hearing from you. Thanks again for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.